When you think about the journey of Justin Bieber, it feels like watching a story that never stops evolving. A story that began with a small boy holding a guitar on a simple YouTube video and somehow grew into one of the most recognizable names on the planet. And now, years later, after the chaos and the spotlight, the applause and the silence, the superstar sits in a studio again with soft lights, the hum of instruments, and that familiar look of reflection in his eyes, teasing new music and making a confession that feels raw and vulnerable. He talks about feeling exposed, about wanting to pour his truth into every lyric, every chord, every melody. Because this time it's not about hits or charts, it's about healing. And as he leans into that microphone, whispering pieces of his soul, you can tell something has shifted. He's no longer chasing fame, he's searching for peace. And the fans who've walked with him through it all can feel it too. The tenderness in his tone, the weight in his words. This isn't the kid who sang Baby, or the pop icon who broke records. This is the man who found himself again, through faith, through love, through pain. And now he's using that to create something deeper, and the way he shares it on social media. Little clips from the studio, flashes of instruments and laughter mixed with quiet moments of thought. It feels intimate, like a conversation between him and the people who've grown up with him. And in that space, he reminds us that even stars need to fall apart sometimes to rebuild into something stronger. His emotional confession isn't one of regret, but of gratitude, a realization that everything he's been through, the highs, the lows, the heartbreak, and the healing, led him right here to this moment of pure creation. And it's beautiful, because you see how music still anchors him, how it still gives him purpose in a world that often feels too loud, too demanding. And it's not just him. So many artists find themselves back in that studio space where vulnerability becomes art. Take someone like Selena Gomez, who's turned her own journey through heartbreak and mental health into hauntingly beautiful music. Her song Lose You to Love Me wasn't just a hit. It was a declaration of self-worth, a healing anthem that resonated with millions, and you can feel that same energy now in Justin's new work. This quiet maturity that comes when fame stops being about flash and starts being about meaning. And when you look at the larger picture, you see that this is a new era in celebrity culture where artists are choosing honesty over perfection. From Billie Eilish's confessional lyrics, to Taylor Swift's poetic storytelling, to Drake's reflective verses, there's a shift happening, a softness, a realness that fans can feel, and Justin is at the heart of that wave. He's talked openly about mental health, about the challenges of growing up under the microscope, and how music has always been his sanctuary. And now, as he teases his new songs, it feels like a full circle moment. Like he's rediscovering why he fell in love with music in the first place. Not for fame, not for validation, but for connection. And that's something we all crave. The feeling of being understood. And through his melodies, he gives that to people, reminding them that it's okay to be emotional, to be unsure, to still be healing. And in doing so, he becomes a mirror for everyone. Watching his vulnerability becomes courage for others. And as he speaks softly about love, forgiveness, and growth, you realize that this confession isn't just about music, it's about humanity. And maybe that's why it resonates so deeply, because we've seen him stumble. We've seen him rise, and now we see him reflect. And there's something profoundly inspiring about that, watching someone who had everything lose it, and then choose to rebuild, not with fame, but with heart. And as the studio lights flicker and the first chords of his new song play, you can almost feel that warmth spreading through the screen, like a reminder that no matter where life takes you, there's always a way back to yourself through art, through faith, through love. And as Justin keeps teasing these little glimpses of his studio sessions, you can almost feel the shift in his energy, the calm after years of noise, the maturity in his tone, the softness that comes from truly understanding himself. Because now when he sings, it doesn't sound like a pop star chasing another number one. It sounds like a man rediscovering his heart. And that's what makes this chapter so powerful. Every chord feels like a confession. Every lyric feels like a prayer. Whispered through the echoes of the studio walls, and maybe that's why fans are connecting so deeply, because they've grown up with him, they've seen the highs, the heartbreaks, the headlines, and now they're watching him transform in real time into an artist who isn't afraid to say, "I'm human." And that courage to be vulnerable, to let people see behind the polished image, is what separates him from who he used to be. It's that same honesty that makes his journey align with artists like Taylor Swift, who has made storytelling her art, turning her emotions into poetry that millions can feel, and she too has faced the challenge of fame, of public opinion, of being misunderstood. Yet she always channels it into creativity, and Justin seems to be doing the same, as if his confession is also an invitation for others to find peace through self-expression. And when you listen closely to his new material, there's something timeless about it. The kind of music that doesn't shout, but speaks softly to the soul, a sound born from gratitude and growth. And that's what makes this era so special. Because it's not just about a comeback, it's about redemption and reflection. And in that sense, Justin joins the ranks of artists who've turned their pain into purpose. From Adele pouring heartbreak into piano ballads, to Shawn Mendes exploring vulnerability and self-discovery, to Selena Gomez creating art out of honesty. They're all redefining what it means to be a celebrity in a world that demands perfection, showing that real strength comes from being open about imperfection. And you can tell that Justin's new songs will carry that spirit, too grounded yet hopeful, reflective yet full of light. And as he shares snippets from his writing process, laughing with producers, or quietly strumming a melody, you see a sense of calm that feels new. It's the peace that comes when you stop performing for the world and start creating for yourself. And in that simplicity, he finds depth, and in that depth, fans find connection, because music has always been that invisible bridge that connects hearts across distance and difference. And Justin's confession about feeling vulnerable only makes that bridge stronger. He admits that some days he still questions himself, that even with all the success, there are moments of doubt and loneliness. But those are the moments that make the art real, that make the music breathe, and it's in those moments that you remember why. Artists matter not for their fame or their glamour, but for their ability to turn emotion into sound and share it with the world. And as he works quietly in his studio, somewhere surrounded by instruments and memories, you can almost imagine him smiling to himself, knowing that this next chapter will be his most authentic yet. And the beauty is, he's not alone. So many artists around the world are reclaiming their voices, using their platforms for good, using their art to heal themselves. And their listeners, like Billie Eilish, whose whispery confessions became a generation's anthem, or Harry Styles, whose kindness and creativity inspire freedom, or even newcomers like Olivia Rodrigo, who took teenage heartbreak and turned it into empowerment. Every story threads into another, forming this global tapestry of truth, where music isn't about fame anymore, it's about feeling. And Justin's place in that story is clear. He's no longer running from his past. He's learning from it, he's channeling it, and that's what makes this moment so emotional. Because after everything, he's still standing, still singing, still believing. And through that resilience, he teaches millions that it's okay to start over. It's okay to admit you're still growing. It's okay to be vulnerable, because that's where the light enters. And as the days go by and the studio lights flicker late into the night, Justin keeps sharing small pieces of his process, little fragments that make his fans feel like they're part of something sacred. And that's the magic of his vulnerability. Because when he opens up, it's not for attention, it's for connection. It's for those who have felt lost and are still trying to find their way through the noise. And you can see how that sincerity echoes in the stories of artists everywhere, who once carried the same weight of expectation, yet turned it into light. Like when Lady Gaga first spoke about her struggles, and turned them into songs of empowerment, reminding the world that pain can coexist with beauty. Or when Ed Sheeran shared his humble beginnings busking on the streets before his music-filled stadiums, proving that talent and perseverance can move mountains. And Justin fits into that lineage of artists who are no longer afraid to show the world their scars and call them art. And as he sits in that booth, headphones on, heart open, you can imagine him reflecting on how far he's come, from a young boy singing in his living room to one of the biggest artists of his generation, and how surreal it must feel to still find something new to say through all the noise and pressure. And it's that courage to keep exploring that inspires millions. And this confession he made about vulnerability, it's more than words. It's a statement of growth, a moment of clarity that shows his evolution as a man and an artist. And in that honesty, he becomes a mirror for everyone who's ever doubted themselves. And that's why when people talk about Justin's new music, they're not just excited for the sound, they're excited for the story, the soul behind it, the journey of redemption and rediscovery that makes every note feel alive. And this same kind of emotional renaissance can be seen in so many global artists who've used fame as a force for good, like Rihanna, who turned her creative empire into a celebration of inclusivity and self-love, or Beyoncé, who continues to redefine excellence by merging artistry and activism, showing that power isn't just about success, it's about purpose. And as Justin walks this path of authenticity, you can tell he's learning that same truth that being real means more than being perfect. And his connection to faith and family, his love for Hailey, and the way he now speaks with more calm and understanding all show that he's not trying to prove anything anymore. He's trying to live fully and freely, and that's something fans resonate with deeply, especially in a world that often feels performative, because when a celebrity chooses to be genuine, it breaks the illusion and reminds us all that fame is just a mirror of humanity magnified 1,000 times. And if Justin's new chapter is about emotional honesty, then it's also about inspiring others to follow their hearts no matter what. And you see that ripple effect across different corners of the world, from artists in K-pop like BTS who advocate for self-love to African stars like Burna Boy and Thames, who proudly blend culture and consciousness into their music, to Latin icons like Shakira and Bad Bunny, who use rhythm as rebellion. Each of them carries that same spark, the courage to stand firm in who they are. And that's what ties this whole story together. It's not just about Justin's confession, it's about a generation of artists creating from a place of truth, and that's why fans around the world find comfort in these stories. Because in a time of social media filters and public scrutiny, seeing someone like Justin share his vulnerabilities gives permission for others to do the same, and you can feel that energy through the screens whenever he posts a quiet moment from the studio or a heartfelt caption about growth. It feels like he's talking to you, like he's reminding you that no matter how broken you feel, you can rebuild. And that message hits home because everyone has their own version of a comeback. Everyone has faced silence, heartbreak, doubt. And somehow music becomes that universal language of healing, connecting strangers. Through shared emotion, and in that connection lies the beauty of art, the invisible thread that ties us together across borders and generations. And when Justin whispers his lyrics into the mic, those words carry the weight of his story, but they also carry the hope of millions who listen and feel less alone because of it. And that's the kind of impact that transcends fame, that turns an artist into a legacy not through awards or records, but through empathy and love. And the more he leans into that truth, the brighter his light becomes. And as the rhythm of his days slows into that sacred balance between creativity and calm, Justin begins to realize that music has always been his diary, his way of documenting every ache, every joy, every lesson learned through fame and faith. And that realization becomes the foundation for the songs he's now writing, the ones that sound like pages from his soul. And it's beautiful to watch because there's a softness in his voice now, the kind that comes from healing and from finally allowing himself to breathe again. And as he speaks about being vulnerable during these new recording sessions, it's clear that he's not just talking about music. He's talking about life, about choosing to stay open, even when the world can be loud and unkind. And that kind of honesty is what connects him to so many artists who've walked their own difficult paths toward peace. Like Demi Lovato, who has turned her recovery into an anthem of resilience. Or Miley Cyrus, who has embraced change time and again, showing that transformation isn't a flaw, it's proof of growth. And as Justin continues to record, you can sense a similar rebirth in him. A man who has faced storms yet still chooses love, who has been misunderstood yet still chooses grace. And that's what makes this chapter of his journey feel timeless, because it's not just about fame anymore, it's about purpose. And when you see him laugh in the studio surrounded by friends, producers, and instruments, it feels less like a performance and more like a family reunion, like the sound of someone finding their way home. And that home isn't a place. It's a feeling, it's the calm that comes when you forgive yourself and allow life to unfold gently. And what's so powerful about this moment is that fans see it too. They hear it in the small acoustic clips, the gentle tones that sound like sunrise. And maybe that's why people connect so deeply to him, because through all the glitter and chaos, he's still that boy from Stratford who believed in music, who believed in something bigger than himself. And that belief has carried him through every trial into every triumph. And when you think about it, he's part of a greater movement of artists who are redefining what it means to live in the public eye, not as untouchable icons, but as real people with real hearts. People like Zendaya, who balances fame with authenticity, using her platform to uplift others, or like Timothée Chalamet, who brings sensitivity to every role, showing that masculinity can be soft and kind and just like them. Justin represents this new generation of emotional intelligence, where success is measured not just by numbers, but by impact, by the ability to inspire, healing, and empathy, and that's exactly what his new music seems to promise. It's not about topping charts, it's about touching lives. And that's why every confession he shares feels like a warm light in the dark, reminding us that even in the most glamorous worlds, everyone is still learning how to love and be loved. And maybe that's why his story resonates beyond just pop culture, because it mirrors something universal, the way we all stumble, the way we all rebuild, and through it all, the way art saves us again and again. And if you look closely, you can see this thread running through so many stories around the world. Artists turning adversity into art like Coldplay, using their global stage to spread messages of unity. Or Halsey blending vulnerability and activism into her sound. Or even global icons like BTS, whose music bridges languages with emotion. And every one of these artists shares that same heartbeat as Justin, that desire to make people feel seen too. Remind them that they're not alone. And that's the soul of music. It's not about perfection, it's about presence, about being here, fully raw and real. And Justin has found that again. You can tell in the way he smiles now, softer, more peaceful, as if he's finally learned that it's okay to slow down to let the world spin, while he simply listens to the quiet rhythm of his heart. And from that quiet comes strength. And from that strength comes art, the kind that lasts. And as the story unfolds into this final stretch of reflection and renewal, you can almost feel the full circle of Justin's journey. The boy who became an icon, the icon who became a man, and the man who finally became himself. And it's in that stillness where everything clicks, where every note, every tear, every smile begins to make sense. And his emotional confession about feeling vulnerable while previewing his new music isn't a weakness. It's his evolution in real time, a glimpse into how far he's come and how grounded he's become. Because now his fame doesn't define him, it amplifies his purpose, and that purpose stretches far beyond the studio walls. It lives in his charity work, his faith, his devotion to kindness, and community. And that's the part of Justin that doesn't always make the headlines, but quietly changes lives, from his ongoing support of children's hospitals to his advocacy for mental health awareness and his willingness to speak openly about anxiety and healing. He's become more than a celebrity. He's become a reminder that even in the brightest light, there's room for honesty and compassion. And that same truth echoes through so many artists across generations, from legends like Elton John, who used his platform to build a legacy of love and aid, to newer stars like Lizzo, who spreads messages of self-love and acceptance every time she steps on stage. And that universal thread of empathy keeps weaving through the fabric of modern culture, creating this symphony of stories that all come back to one thing: the courage to be real. And Justin embodies that with every melody he records these days, because the music he's teasing doesn't sound like someone trying to chase trends. It sounds like someone writing his truth with grace and gratitude. And maybe that's why people love him now more than ever, because there's a gentleness in his evolution, an understanding that fame is fleeting, but authenticity lasts forever. And in a world that often mistakes vulnerability for weakness, he's teaching the opposite. That opening your heart is the bravest thing you can do, and that bravery ripples outward, inspiring millions to find peace in their own imperfections. And as his journey intertwines with those of other global artists, from Billie Eilish to Drake, from Adele to The Weeknd, from Ariana Grande to Sam Smith, you see this collective movement forming artists no longer just entertainers, but storytellers, healers, truth seekers who use rhythm and voice to connect humanity in the quiet moments between the beats. And that's what this entire story feels like. A heartbeat, one that pulses through the screen, through the speakers, reminding us that no matter how chaotic life becomes, music will always bring us back home. And as Justin stands in that studio mic in hand, eyes closed, you can imagine him taking a deep breath before singing that first line of his new song, the one he's been working on for months, the one that holds everything he's been feeling. And when his voice fills the room, it's not just sound, it's spirit. It's the culmination of years of pain and peace, struggle and success, joy and surrender, all blending into harmony. And in that harmony, you hear more than just Justin Bieber. You hear every dreamer who ever refused to give up, every artist who turned their tears into art, every person who found healing in a song, and maybe that's the real confession he's making. That at the end of it all, fame, fortune, and applause mean little compared to the simple act of being seen and understood. And through his new music, he's offering that same gift to the world. One lyric at a time, and when you think about the bigger Picture it's beautiful how interconnected all these journeys are. How one artist's honesty can light another's path. How Justin's newfound peace mirrors the resilience of people everywhere, learning to embrace their own stories. And in that light, he's not just previewing new songs, he's previewing a new chapter of life. One filled with patience, purpose, and peace. And as the studio lights dim and the final note fades into silence, there's this lingering feeling of hope, the kind that stays with you long after the music stops. The kind that reminds you that it's okay to start over. It's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to keep believing in love and healing because, like Justin shows us with every confession, every song, every quiet moment behind the mic, there's always a way to find your melody again. If you love celebrity stories, Hollywood news, inspirational journeys, and behind-the-scenes moments that feel personal, hit like, comment, and subscribe to stay connected with more positive and emotional celebrity documentaries.